Okay, hi. I'm a part of group three, Sophie, Diamond, and Justice. That's me. And we decided to do our project on discrimination of the LGBTQ plus community, specifically in the workplace. So, the social problem is discrimination happens all around our society in different areas. In the workplace, it's a very big issue because everyone needs to have a job in order to survive, really. And members of the LGBTQ plus community often face a lot of different challenges in their workplace. 1 in 4 LGBTQ employees have reported experiencing employment discrimination in the last 5 years. With employees who stayed in their job, nearly 1 in 10 left due to an unwelcomely environment. And also, the transgender unemployment rate is 3 times higher than the national average. Those are just some statistics, and there are more. In 28 states, as of 2017, a member of the LGBTQ community can get fired if they are lesbian, bisexual, or gay. And in 30 states, a person can be fired for being transgender. But 22 states actually prohibit employment discrimination on the basis on sexual orientation. Although there are some states that are fighting for rights, members of this community can still face discrimination a lot of the time. So we actually found a video on YouTube that talks about the LGBTQ discrimination in the workplace and about taking the LGBTQ workplace to the federal court. It is really interesting and actually lets you hear the story of a member of the community and how they are trying to help make a change. I'll just play the video. Oh.
It affects people's lives in a very fundamental way, being able to provide for themselves and their families. We've won some of the other battlegrounds already.
Okay, it's not showing. Just a second. Okay, here.
Employment affects people's lives in a very fundamental way, being able to provide for themselves and their families. We've won some of the other battlegrounds already, but having protections for the LGBT community in the workplace, this is an issue whose time has come. There's been a lot of messages that we don't have rights in all these states. And we hear again and again that Congress hasn't added sexual orientation and gender identity into Title VII. When in reality, Title VII does protect us. We've had a lot more success on that with transgender employees, but as far as lesbian, gay, and bisexual employees, that is an awareness that's just now taking hold. At the federal appellate court level, that's where we need the breakthrough decision. So potential impact of the win, either in the Hively or the Evans case, is just literally to change the game. The Civil Rights Act covers a lot of different areas, but specifically Title VII is regarding employment. It says that you cannot discriminate against somebody because of that person's race, color, sex, religion, or national origin. What's discrimination because of someone's sex? It's not just about treating women the same as men anymore. It's really any time that an individual person, something happens to them that's bad that would not have happened to them if they weren't the sex that they are. And that's why lesbian, gay, bisexual employees are all covered under Title VII.
Security guards in the state of Georgia, they have mandatory state training that they have to go through. I've always kind of fallen into this field with ease. It was just the next step to go ahead on and do the training so that I could perform my job well. Most days, others will listen to you because you present yourself in a clean, professional manner. You're firm when you direct people, and so most people respect that. Some of the other women in the department were absolutely more feminine, and I just was not that type of female. And so a lot of people get offended by my appearance and makes people uncomfortable at times. It was terrible. I ended up taking work home with me every day. I would be very stressed out. I would dread going to work because of what might happen that day. I would cry because I was overwhelmed by the way I was being treated.
There's really no question that Jamaica, she was discriminated against because of her failure to conform to gender stereotypes, but Title VII strikes at the entire spectrum of disparate treatment of people that results from gender stereotypes. There are different arguments that we make. One is somebody who didn't conform to feminine norms. The other one is a stereotype that women should date only men. She was discriminated against because of an attraction to women, and no man who works at Georgia Regional Hospital who's attracted to women experiences similar discrimination.
I got into teaching about 16 years ago. The moment that somebody goes from being frustrated because they don't understand something to all of a sudden getting it, when the light bulb turns on, that's the most amazing thing about my job. It was horribly degrading. I was a good teacher. That didn't matter. I could have been the best at what I did. The fact that I was a lesbian took all that away. I worked really hard to be good at my job, and to be denied advancement again and again and again was heartbreaking. That's where I'd hoped to spend the rest of my life and to retire from. So to be told that I was never going to get those things is like being told that this dream that you've had for a long time was never going to happen.
In the Hively case, you can't have a different policy for men than you have for women. So the argument is that women who date women are discriminated against, whereas men who date women are not. The other argument is if you discriminate against someone who's in a same-sex relationship, you necessarily know the sex of their partner or spouse and their sex, and you're taking both of those into consideration. That's the same kind of discrimination. It's discrimination against somebody because they are of a different race than their partner, and both race and sex discrimination are equally prohibited by Title VII on the same terms. The EEOC has ruled that sexual orientation discrimination is covered by Title VII, but there hasn't been a federal appellate court to weigh in yet. And so I think it'll just change everything in a very profound way if we win either of those cases.
It's not okay to discriminate against people. My sexual orientation has nothing to do with my job. It has nothing to do with my work performance. So I shouldn't have to defend myself over my job because of who I was.
A lot of times, all it would take to change things is one person to stand up. I don't want this to happen to anyone else, and I don't want to continue to go through this myself. So if I have to be that one person, I'm willing to make that sacrifice.
It would make me very proud to know that my case made a huge impact. These things are still happening, and they're still happening on a regular basis. And it's just average, normal, everyday people who are fighting to keep jobs. So I hope I'm being a voice for them.
Okay. So, the role of a social worker, specifically for the LGBTQ community with discrimination in the workplace, is as social workers, we must educate the LGBTQ community, and we can do this by explaining the discrimination policy, which means to prevent these individuals from feeling uncomfortable in the workplace and also having the fear of being fired. And then we can also get in touch with their inner mental health. So as social workers, we need to be aware that mental health is real and that it may affect these certain individuals because of what they deal with on a daily basis. So we chose an article, and I'll show you what it is. So the article that we chose is Workplace Discrimination, the LGBTQ Workforce. And this article was actually written in 2016, but it was updated in 2017, so it is still very relevant in the time we are in now. So the article focused on the LGBTQ community and the discrimination that they encounter in the workforce. Many issues are addressed, such as the lack of legal protection in the workplace, discrimination in job interviews, and the feeling of fear and unwelcomeness. Challenges for these members are mentioned, such as facing harassment, and 40% listed in the article face this kind of treatment. So we chose this article because it does do a great job encompassing all issues that individuals in the LGBTQ community face. And it is a recent article, so it focused on occurrences that are more modern. It gave perspective to what members of this community endure in the workplace, and it also provides statistics, which are very helpful, and it puts the numbers into perspective of how many people are actually affected. So some of the social welfare policies that we have now is actually, there are like no government law that outlaw discrimination against sexual orientation or gender identity. So there's no law in the United States of America that specifically says it's illegal to discriminate against a person based on their sexual orientation or gender identity. But Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 is a federal law that prohibits employees from discriminating against employees on the basis of sex, race, color, national origin, and religion. Title VII, it does have two circuit courts, one in Chicago and one in Manhattan, and they have said that Title VII does also prohibit discrimination against gay employees. So they say that sex, just by saying sex, it doesn't mean like just only male and female, but it means sexual orientation as well. And also the Equality Act, it was introduced in 2018, but it has not been passed yet. I mean, it was introduced in 2017, but it has not been passed yet, and it was introduced to the House. They are hoping to amend the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and actually define sex to include sex stereotypes, sexual orientation or gender identity, and pregnancy, childbirth, or related medical condition, like sexual orientation as homosexuality, heterosexuality, or bisexuality, and gender identity as gender-related identity, appearance, mannerisms, or characteristics, regardless of the individual's designated sex at birth. So with Title VII, they are trying to amend that and have the Equality Act will serve for that. And then also the Equality Act will also prohibit discrimination over all of the things in the workplace, in stores, service centers like schools, churches, like etc. Some of the conflicting values and beliefs are we are still confused as to why there is still no set law that prohibits discrimination against the LGBTQ community, especially in the workplace. And although there has been new policies written up, one still has not passed. Like for the Equality Act, that was introduced to the House in 2017, May of 2017, and it is now November of 2018, and it still has not been passed. We definitely feel that states need to all come to a consensus and just outlaw discrimination against anyone. Like the cities I listed earlier, Chicago and Manhattan, they have said that Title VII does prohibit discrimination against gay employees, but that still doesn't cover the entire states that those cities are in. And all states in the United States of America do not have that law. So we just thought it was really shocking to see all the statistics about discrimination against the LGBTQ community. And it was interesting to find out, like, many people do not realize all that social workers have to encounter when dealing with clients. But when we have issues like this, it will educate many individuals on their rights as people in the workforce. So this picture actually shows that in 28 states, you can be fired for being lesbian, bisexual, or gay. And this is actually, this was in 2018 as well. And it shows, like, even in Michigan, we have no non-discrimination laws at all. And places like, oh, I forgot what state that is, but this state actually has sexual orientation non-discrimination laws. So out of all of these states, the majority of the states have no non-discrimination laws. And in 30 states, you can also be fired for being transgendered. So that was our slideshow and our presentation.